Hello and welcome to our pre-recorded presentation on self-management, specifically introducing you to the programs of Zones of Regulation and the Incredible 5-Point Scale. My name is Vera Cara Michelle and I'm a school psychologist and board certified behavior analyst here at WACSIP-SELPA. And we also have...
Hello everyone, I'm Oscar, the school psychologist intern with WACSIP.
Okay. And today we are going to hopefully be hitting some of these objectives that we have listed here for you. Number one is that we are going to learn about self-management as well as the purpose of it, that we're going to be introducing you to the 4 levels within the zones of regulation. You're going to also learn how to create a toolbox. You will understand the use of the Incredible 5-Point Scale, and you will also learn the steps to develop and implement that 5-point scale. Life is 10% what happens to us and 90% how we react to it. It's really the attitudes we have and the choices we make in response to what happens to us. Some of you might know or may know a little bit about self-management. In reality, self-management is an evidence-based intervention. It is aimed to help learners independently regulate their own behaviors and act appropriately in different situations. The important information to highlight here is that the focus of this intervention is to help your children or students regulate their behavior. When self-management is implemented, the student or the child is taught to differentiate between expected and unexpected behaviors, or those behaviors that are appropriate versus inappropriate behaviors. The child is also taught to accurately monitor and record the behaviors that you are targeting, as well as when and how to reward him or herself for behavior that is appropriate. Self-management has a goal of utilizing its tools in order for you to increase a desired behavior or decrease an interfering behavior or a challenging behavior. You want to teach the students self-regulation to promote learning and independence and teach delayed gratification. The rest of this presentation is going to focus on 2 specific strategies to teach your students self-regulation skills. These 2 self-regulation strategies are the zones of regulation and the Incredible 5-Point Scale. And we begin with the zones of regulation.
So the zones of regulation, it's a simple concept that can be used in a lot of different ways. And the zones of regulation, it also teaches students different vocabulary for different emotional terms. It helps them recognize their own emotions, and most importantly, how to detect emotions of others. It categorizes all different ways we feel and states of alertness into 4 different colors. So by categorizing all different ways we feel and states of alertness, we experience into 4 concrete zones. It also provides strategies to teach students to become more aware of and be independent in controlling their emotions and impulses, being able to manage their sensory needs and improving their ability to problem solve different conflicts. And the reason that we teach zones of regulations is mainly because it teaches kids the different colors in order to recognize their feelings and use them in order to strategize to move from green zone, which is the calm body, calming down and feeling okay. And typically children who self-regulate will turn into teens who can self-regulate. This will allow students to communicate appropriately to parents, guardians, teachers, friends, and families when needed. And here are the 4 categories of zones. We will go into further detail about each category and what it looks like. Please do note that each category may look different for each person. And here we have some examples of blue and red zones. Some other examples of blue zone include being sick, feeling sad, sleepy, or tired. Other examples of the green zone can include being fully awake, motivated, inspired, feeling confident, happy, at peace, relaxed, attentive, and even focused. Some other examples of the yellow zone include being confused, worried, anxious, or nervous. And for red zone, other examples include being angry, annoyed, furious. Please do note that some of the emotions may feel or be different in different zones for different people. For example, the emotion annoyed can be in the yellow zone for someone, and for others, it can be in the red zone. The key is to identify the intensity of the emotion and how the person reacts to it. And as we begin to implement these recognition of emotions, we start to see what works for us and what doesn't work for us. As we progress through different stages and emotions, we gather different tools and strategies along the way. So these strategies are then stored into our toolbox and easily accessible when confronted with similar situations. And typically we are aiming to stay in the green zone. We want them to be engaged, confident, and happy. Maintaining ourselves in the green zone allows us to be productive and receptive to our ever-changing environment. So blue, yellow, and red zones are okay. They don't always need to be in the green zone. Different zones are experienced throughout the day. There's no wrong or bad zones. We could all make poor choices, and they are expected zones for different environmental demands. So the most important thing is just to be safe, approach a situation in a non-judgmental means to communicate and recognize their feelings, and being able to provide natural consequences for poor choices in the red zone. Processing afterwards the circumstances, what led to that red zone, and how to do it differently the next time. So students can be in more than one zone at once. Like for example, blue for tired and yellow for anxiety over a test. The same emotion can be categorized in two different zones. Example, being disappointed in blue or yellow, and jealous can be yellow or red. Listing more than one zone can indicate that they are really in touch with their feelings alertness level. And again, the zone depends on the intensity of the emotion for each person. So disguising our zone by putting on a mask to match social expectations. We hear the expression of put on a happy face if you're disappointed or jealous. And another example can be when you're picking up your child from school and they lose it then, and they are aware of social expectations. And so the peers continue to think good thoughts about them until a safe place to let their emotions out. So teaching them how to manage yellow zone emotion inside of them throughout the day so that it doesn't turn into the red zone can give them independent self-regulation, where it takes them a long time to develop a neurotypical children. So be aware that special needs students may require many years and may never develop full independent self-regulation skills, but the program does provide a structure for co-regulation and mutual regulation. So being able to repeat the lesson more than once or do the lesson in a regular basis to assist the students in comprehending the concept taught will help help them understand the zones of regulation in a different way. So the first thing we want students to know is how to identify feelings in themselves and others. We start by looking for face and body clues and noticing where emotions are in our bodies. And the other thing is to making sure that we reinforce remaining in the green zone as expected and reinforce when a student uses a tool, reinforcing use of a tool, whether it worked or not. And again, being able to label or acknowledge what zone they are in various situations so they can begin to recognize where they are. And when kids are in the red zone, it's important to give them space to calm down before teaching any strategies or problem solving. Determining the size of the problem will look differently for each student and or situation. So here you can see the different levels and intensities of the size of the problem. And you want to make sure that you frequently reinforce your child for having expected reactions rather than only pointing out the unexpected. And as previously mentioned, once you start reinforcing zones of regulations and self-management tools, you'll be able to have this toolbox, for both of you to fill out and to see what works and what doesn't work. And this way, when a situation does arise, they're able to kind of reflect back on what worked when they were in that particular zone. And do note that these resources will be available to you. So you're able to save and print and use it with your child and student. So feel free to also save the sample in order to help you guide on the blank one.
The next self-regulation program that we're going to be discussing is the Incredible 5-Point Scale. There's a website dedicated to the Incredible 5-Point Scale, as well as a workbook with printables available for purchase, and you can find the information for these at the end of this presentation. As noted before, self-management is a strategy that has the backing of many research studies, including the use of this scale. This is an intervention that has been found to be effective with individuals with autism and other disabilities, as well as typically developing children. As noted before, the strategy is a self-regulation technique which incorporates a visual scale with numbers from 1 to 5, as you see in this page. The purpose of this technique is to teach children to self-manage their behavior. Some of you may be familiar with the pain scale that is often used in doctors' offices or urgent care or emergency rooms to assess how much pain you are experiencing. Consider this scale to be very similar to that, in the sense that as the numbers increase, the behavior is also increasing. So let's look at this example. Excuse me, going back to it. For example, 1 says, I'm doing great. As you go up to level 2, it says, I'm doing just okay. 3 is now, I'm getting really irritated. 4 is, I'm getting too angry. And 5 is, I can't stand this and I'm ready to explode. So as you can see, this is definitely increasing in intensity as the numbers move up. A large number of behaviors can be addressed using this 5-point scale, such as voice volume, the obsessional index, anxiety index, learning about control, appropriate physical distance, angry outburst, and I'm sure you can come up with your own. There are many examples of 5-point scales developed and easily found on the Incredible 5-Point Scale website, which you can access by clicking the hot link above, or simply go to the 5pointscale.com. You can also develop your own scale using the template that we have provided for you on the link in the resources. As you develop your own scale, remember that you want to break down the escalation of the behavior into small parts to help your child or student understand what you are seeing in order for him to express how it feels for them at that point or at that number. and also to provide them with the opportunity to brainstorm potential ways or activities that will help them resolve the issue and prevent the escalation from continuing to increase. What does it feel like, and what does it look like for me? What is my plan? These are the different areas that you will be filling in with your student. So the first part you want to fill in is the what does it feel like? What does it look like? And then you come up with a plan together. Here are some examples of the elementary and secondary grades. So let's look at these together. Excuse me again. Okay, so as you can see, this would be for elementary. If you would like to add pictures, depending on your student, the student that you're working with, or your child, you may choose to add some images to kind of depict how they are potentially looking like at that moment. So the first column, as you can see here, is what does it look like? The middle one is what does it feel like? And the third one is what can I do? So for the look like, this can be something that you actually observe and describe very clearly in this box, or draw it out together. The feels like, you're going to actually ask your son, daughter, or your student to participate in the description of what does it feel like? When I see this, what do you feel like? And then together you will come up with what can I do? In some cases, your child, your student can actually tell you, this is what helps me. I need time away. I need pressure. I need to lay down. I need time alone. So they may be able to tell you this. Sometimes they may not. For this column or this section here, you may actually need to try a few things together that you think may help, and then remove or add more as you know that those certain things have worked and others have not. Okay, let's look at the middle and high school really quick. All right, so here you can see, again, you see the point scale in the same manner, no images, and there's a lot more writing here. So for example, this particular one is for anxiety or to resolve anxiety. So with number one, it says, I'm following directions and I'm engaging in the lesson or activity. For these, again, your son, daughter, your student can actually help you identify what it is that it looks like, and then again, getting information from them as to what it feels like. So for the second column, for number one, you can see they say, they said, I feel calm and able to work. And what can I do? Is my third column. Well, I can continue to work and let my teacher know that I'm okay if they ask me. As they move up, let's look at number three, for example. Here, what does it look like? It says the body's moving more. He or she is biting his or her nails or cuticle. At least one of my legs is shaking, and there's more fleeing eye contact or attention to the task at hand. Still answering questions, but it is requiring several redirections now. And then in the how does it feel, they indicated I'm feeling more anxious, my stomach is hurting, and my heart is beating hard. You can read the rest of it. And then what are some of the things that you can do? Again, you can see, I can ask for a break or a walk. I can go for a brief walk with someone. I can get help with my breathing exercises or my therapy ball to bounce, on and on and on. Okay, so, excuse me. These are some of the steps that you're going to need to follow when implementing the 5-point scale. So the first one is you're going to determine what behavior needs to be taught or changed. Then you're going to obtain the agreement from your son or daughter. You're going to then use the blank template to indicate or describe what each level looks or sounds like to you. And again, you can see the examples that we just discussed and reviewed. You're going to discuss and document with your son or daughter what the behavior feels like at each level. Then you're going to develop the plan or the strategies that work for each of the 5 levels. So I can try 2, and then you fill in what it is that they're going to try. You're going to teach your son or daughter the use of the scale in a one-to-one session until he or she is able to understand it. So you're going to present it, you're going to practice, you're going to prompt your son, daughter to use it until they're able to do it independently. Excuse me. And the last step here is that once you begin implementing it, you may use, again, you may have to prompt your child to use the scale until he or she is using it independently. The goal is always for the child to independently use the scale and reduce the problematic behavior or increase that desired behavior that you're looking for. We're going to go through just a few slides in the next section so that you can get an idea of some of the resources. And I'm going to scroll through these pretty quickly.
So here we have the strategies that can be used in conjunction with the zones of regulation credible 5-point scale. So we'll first talk about how we can rephrase certain qualities in our children to make them into a positive phrase. So positive reframing, these are some of the examples. You know, if they're bossy, it could just be that you could rephrase it to natural leader. Clingy, of being affectionate. Demanding could also be used, you know, as being assertive. But again, we want to try to use positive reframing when talking to a child. And these are some of the things that they are able to use. Finding a quiet space in order to do calming techniques, activities, as well as you know, other examples that are shown here of a box full of arts and crafts, sensory tools, anything that has worked for them in the past. And again, it is a learning technique. So not everything is going to work for the child and yourself. So make sure to just go ahead and go through these and see these examples and see if this works for you and the child or student. So puzzles, listening to music, taking a walk, you know, any sensory tools that you either have at home or in the classroom. It's all going to be different for each child depending on the situation and the environment as well. And again, we do have the additional resources and it will be available to you. And you're able to go back and forth between this presentation, just in case you maybe missed something or you just want to go ahead and review it as well. And this concludes our presentation. So we would like to thank you for taking the time to watch this. And we do hope that you found this to be helpful and user-friendly. Remember to download the handouts and these links that were contained for the examples and templates you can use to develop your own toolbox or 5-point scale. If you have any questions or concerns, you know, in beginning to develop or implement these strategies, please do feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.